What time is it? Say it's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. That's right, it's KP's Video News, y'all. And I'm going to give a shout out to my roving reporter, KK, in LA, my roving reporter, Ayana in Phoenix, and my new roving reporter, welcome to the club. Shout out to Big Rich Hardy over there in Atlanta. What's going on with you, Rich? All right. Yep. Just giving you guys a shout out this morning. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna get started right away. And this story here is really extremely disturbing because you have a Columbia University president accused of covering up decades of racial intimidation and fraud. So you have criminal complaints filed against Columbia president C. Bollinger, alleged that he masterminded a $650,000 bribery, arbitration fraud, $5,000 a day extortion, and judicial corruption scheme to avoid a $200 million class action lawsuit already scheduled for jury trial and arbitration for suppressing equal opportunity for blacks and other minorities by abusing his connections to the corrupt attorneys and the bribe condoning federal judge. So, New York. Americans United for Equal Justice founder has filed criminal complaints against Columbia University President Lee C. Bollinger with the New York State Attorney General and other law enforcement agencies, alleging that he had masterminded a recently discovered $650,000 bribery fraud, $5,000 a day extortion, subordination of perjury, the RICO Act, and obstruction of justice scheme and civil rights conspiracy to suppress the basic equal opportunity rights and constitutional rights of thousands of black and other minority employees at Columbus during the past 2 decades. A recently published international and internal Columbia report showed complaints of illegal discrimination and harassment had increased by 9% from 2018 to 2019 under Bollinger's watch at the Harlem-based institution. After recently establishing the website, it was alleged that Bollinger masterminded a $650,000 elaborate attorney bribery, arbitration fraud, and criminal extortion scheme by bribing multiple corrupt attorneys with alleged extrajudicial connections to a federal judge to fraudulently avoid a $2 million Coca-Cola and Texaco style class action lawsuit on behalf of potentially thousands of past and present victims of institutionalized discrimination at Columbia, avoid an already scheduled jury trial for racial discrimination and ordered by New York State Court Judge Joan Kinney, and also avoid an expressly agreed arbitration under expressly agreed jurisdiction of noted labor arbitration, and Martin Scheinman, that would have established the first anti-discrimination minority employees association at the 26B year-old Ivy League University. Allegedly, Bollinger had a history of blatant racial discrimination and hoodwinking the public by using deceptive smokescreens such as bogus affirmative action and a fake racial tokens to cover up his decades of institutionalized racial discrimination, harassment, and suppression of minority rights. When Mrs. Novia Wright, a black woman and a former head of equal opportunity at Columbia herself, attempted to initiate a class action on behalf of hundreds of black employees, he hired the most dishonest attorneys uh, of the Proskauer Rose firm to use the most unethical and direct intimidation tactics, including countersuing the civil rights plaintiff herself to cover up his institutionalized racial discrimination practices by direction, intimidation, and further subjugation of blacks and other minorities at Columbia. During his anti-racism hunger strikes at Columbia, several hunger strikes had demanded that the 74-year-old Bollinger should immediately resign because he had hoodwinked the public by using deceptive racial tokens to become Columbia's 19th president and had been using every possible opportunity to repeatedly suppress the equal opportunities and basic constitutional rights of blacks and other racial minorities at the otherwise great institution. Bollinger had repeatedly used various fake programs to give himself an unprecedented annual salary increase of over $1.9 million at a nonprofit and continue to remain president in arguably the darkest period of Columbia's history. When Columbia's former senior management analyst turned civil rights leader was organizing a $200 million class action against Bollinger for institutional racial discrimination, in New York State Court Judge Honorable John Kennedy had already ordered him to testify in an already scheduled jury trial regarding his institutionalized racial discrimination policies and the plantation mentality, and where blacks were invented for cheap labor. Wow. Climate created at Columbia under his watch. Bollinger once again hired the most unethical and dishonest attorneys of the Proskauer Rose firm to bribe an outgoing one of 6 cases, 40 hours attorney Louis Stover, and specifically abused and extrajudicial connections to a jurisdiction lacking any racially biased Manhattan Federal Court Judge Paul A. Crotty, in exchange for an estimated $650,000 bribe payments by Bollinger. The jurisdiction tracking federal judge allowed Stover to commit repeated perjury and fraud, engage in unthinkable litigation against his own client, and character assassination of his own client as a so-called frivolous litigant. Even though they had wanted to basically complete the expressly agreed arbitration under the jurisdiction of arbitrator Steinman, seek totally absurd and unconstitutional $5,000 a day so-called bogus fines against his own client to extort involuntary releases through sheer intimidation, and or seek even possible imprisonment of his own client so that at least $650,000 in bribe payments can be legitimized as so-called attorney fees even before the completion of the expressly agreed to arbitration under the jurisdiction of arbitrator Steinman. Recently, criminal charges were brought against a Columbia University doctor for sexually assaulting over 17 women, including the wife of a recent presidential hopeful, Andrew Yang, under Bollinger's watch. ColumbiaVictims.com website lists numerous cases of blatant racial discrimination and sexual harassment. Several Columbia professors have been sued or have resigned after having demanded sexual favors from their female students under Bollinger's watch. Previously, Bollinger had also settled a fraud case with the U.S. Attorney for $9.5 million. Wow, this guy was just off the tracks, boy. And so they had a comment that says, if a corrupt Ivy League president is able to entice a jurisdiction lacking federal court judge into a $650,000 bribery, fraud, and $5,000 a day criminal extortion scheme to allow the continuation of his institutionalized racial intimidation practice, that may be the death of all civil rights laws as envisioned by Martin Luther King. this guy was off the chain, boy. And that's Columbia University in New York. Off the chain, I'm telling you. And so just going with the university theme here, I don't know if I did this story or not, but it's about a student who worked as a garbage man to pay for his college. He got admitted to Harvard Law School. And I believe I did speak on this story already, where they had a kid that got a job as a garbage man to pay his way through college, and he eventually ended up getting a grant. He got a grant and a scholarship for Harvard to pay for most of his tuition. He needed help with a few other things, but hey, paying his way through college, man. His father's doing it up. And so this is going to be the last story on this one. And this is a former police officer of the year. I'll say that again. A former police officer of the year nominee charged with 66 counts of rape. Wow, this is crazy. A 50-year-old man who has been accused of sexually assaulting and raping several women he met through dating apps while serving as a police officer is facing additional charges this week after 2 more women came forward. A full list of allegations thus far ran from 2010 to the present, according to the police department. It's alleged between 2010 to 2020, the man met numerous women through various online dating applications, police said in a news release. During a number of these dates, it's alleged the man sexually assaulted a number of women, some of whom are yet to come forward to police. The man, Adrian Moore, has been identified by local media as a senior constable who joined the force in 1990 and was once nominated for Police Officer of the Year award with the WA Police Force. WA Police said he resigned his position with the force in May 2018 while facing charges from an internal affairs unit. Charges against Moore have been accumulating in the 2 years since his resignation. According to the WA-based online newspaper, Moore was sent to jail for 6 months in February 2019 after court found he had used police computers to find information on 92 women he met through dating apps over several years. Additional charges were brought against Moore in March after women began coming forward to share their alleged experiences, resulting in more than 100 charges. That included drugging women, sexually assaulting women, and at least 66 counts of rape. More charges against Moore have been added in the months since, the latest of which came after 2 women alleged Moore sexually assaulted them between 2011 and 2016. WA Police said Wednesday, police said the two women's allegations resulted in 5 additional charges, including assault, sexual penetration without consent, and stupefying or drugging with the intent of committing a related offense. Moore now faces more than 140 sexual assault offenses. Wow. The acting inspector has repeatedly asked for women who believe they were targeted by Moore to come forward and share their experiences, and Moore was accused of using his position on the force not to just access women's personal information, but to encourage them to submit to his requests. And he's you're going to jail. You're going to jail for a long time. You're going to be locked up with hate to say it, probably with R. Kelly somewhere, for the rest of your life, and you'll never get out. Sad day. Sad day. Oh well.
What time is it?
Got
Say
busted,
it's time
partner.
for KP's Video News.